Hello and welcome to At the Leadership Table with retired Major General Jim Hoyer. Oftentimes people hear the word leader and they think only of political leaders, but leaders come in many forms, and that's worth exploring. I'm Jim Hoyer, born and raised in West Virginia, a husband, a father, a new grandfather, and a retired military leader, serving for over 40 years in public leadership for our state and nation. Now, the most important mission I have going forward is to educate, motivate, and empower our next generation of leaders. At the leadership table with me today is Dr. Sherri Young. She's the former cabinet secretary for the West Virginia Department of Health. She's a physician specializing in family and geriatric medicine, an author, a proud West Virginian, and I will say from my experience in working with her, a dedicated public servant and a dedicated public servant to the people of West Virginia. She served in many different positions throughout her career, to include the president of the West Virginia Medical Association and the first ever woman director of the Kanawha Charleston Health Department. Sherri, I've had a great privilege of working with you in both trying times and in good times, and it's really a pleasure and an honor to have you joining us at the leadership table today.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for inviting me to the table so we can talk about things that went well and maybe didn't.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you the same first question that we ask all of our guests. Please share with us a standout moment when you learned something really important about leadership.
Oh, there's so many opportunities to learn in leadership and to keep growing. So always listen a little bit more than you talk, especially when getting to know your teams. But there was a few times during the pandemic we learned some very important lessons, and taking two tenets to task. One, always do the right thing, and two, never send a troop into battle you wouldn't fight yourself. The art of war. So learning that, one of the standout moments we had was deciding to do testing comprehensively for all of the residents of the nursing home. It was something that we were actually criticized for slightly. It was something that hadn't been done before, but learning everything that had been done in other areas and knowing what needed to be done and tamping down fears and putting all of our resources into one place, having the National Guard, having the right people at the right place to make this happen. We did it. And so to learn, to know to do the right thing is always important. We weren't always 100% because we were going with the best information we had. Maybe it's 60% because you're in a crisis, but you do the right thing. And then going into the nursing home was probably one of my best moments, taking the team before I put them into any danger whatsoever, not knowing what we were dealing with as far as the virus or COVID or what was going to happen, or even, these people were scared. These people were watching things unfold on TV. We're coming in what looks like spacesuits, lead from the front. And so going in with them and showing them that I'm going to be here with you, whatever happens, that's probably one of the proudest moments I've had.
And I will say, from watching that firsthand and being a part of it, I think one of the most important things was that you, as the head of public health in the largest county in the state, demonstrated confidence that we were going to do the best we could to take care of the people of West Virginia, particularly the most vulnerable. And you're right, we got a lot of drama around going in and doing that testing and being the first. But then when the dust started to settle a little bit, we got a lot of national recognition as being the first, right?
That's right, and that was with your leadership as well. It's important to have the right leaders.
So, Sherri, people understand you're born and raised in West Virginia. Give us a little bit of your background and how you got from being born in West Virginia to a medical doctor and a public servant as a medical doctor.
Well, my story, it doesn't sound very unique, but I grew up in Wyoming County, West Virginia. Had no idea it was a poor county, had no idea I was a not considered, affluent, so to speak. I never thought of myself as poor. I had everything I needed. And I was very fortunate to have great parents. My dad, the Colonel Young, who was with the 130th. I had great leadership and great support from my family. And that is more important than having any other financial resources or any backing of that sort. I'm very proud to be from Wyoming County, and I still go back there. I went there a few weeks ago to help with some of the cleanup and help give tetanus shots, because that's just a hobby of mine, apparently. But to be from Wyoming County, I understand how there are different parts of the state. And so while I love West Virginia, I've been in Kanawha County for 20 years now. I've had a great medical career. I understand the fact and can see the fact that this from your leadership side, from with the guard response, flood response, things that we've had to do, what you do and what resources you have in Kanawha County or Mon County are going to be different than McDowell County and the great people of Wyoming County. So I take that with me everywhere I go, that you should never forget where you came from. And so I was very fortunate to get my start at WVU. I went into speech pathology, thought, hey, I'll give medical school a try. And then very interesting career track later. Nobody sets out to be a cabinet secretary, I don't think, going to medical school, but I got to do some really great things, and that's all because of where I came from.
Absolutely, and I think it's a great example for young people today across our state that the opportunities for them are only limited by what they envision and what they put into making those things happen.
Absolutely.
So you took on another responsibility as a public servant, having been a part of this effort. There was a lot of challenges with the old Department of Health and Human Services system, so it was decided to separate it into 3 separate entities, and you responded to the call of the administration to take on the role of Secretary of Public Health and Secretary of Health and build it back into a strong separate unit. So tell us a little bit about that and what that was like and the challenges that you faced.
Well, we can all remember House Bill 2006 when they split the department, and coming fresh off the streets of Kanawha County and off of the pandemic, I realized that public health had taken quite a beating for the last several years. They were tired from COVID, and it was a difficult time for everyone. Then you take the department, it almost splits. Then you take the department, it does split, and everything seems to be changing. So going in and just telling everybody it's going to be okay was the first and most important act. I was very fortunate to walk into a Department of Health. The way that it was split, I had wonderful leaders who had been through all of those changes. And so we needed to echo that it was going to be okay. And first we did town halls. We listened to every single employee and gave them the opportunity, we're talking thousands of people here, that had the opportunity to tell us what they needed to be successful, what could help, what is going to make this a successful department. So from there, I enabled my leadership team to do great things, and they did. I stepped out of the role of cabinet secretary knowing that I left it a little bit better than I found it. We reorganized within the organization to give everybody a manageable amount of work so that they could be successful. It wasn't balanced. It's simply about balancing the equation, diagnosing what could be done better, and then making those recommendations. So I feel like we gave the state the Department of Health that they needed.
And I think you did an outstanding job. I think my experience in watching the other great thing that you do from a leadership perspective is you do truly lead by example, and you lead from the front. And I saw that during the pandemic. I saw that during emergency responses we did together. When testing went on in the nursing homes, you were out there testing. When we were giving vaccinations, you were out there giving vaccinations. When we had to wade through mud to help people respond to an emergencies, you were out there doing it. So that's something I particularly appreciate about your leadership role and leading from the front.
I think that's something that, because we are West Virginians, you and I, that that's the way we were raised, and we do that for our state.
So you have a lot of different awards and recognition for the work that you've done. Most recently, though, you were awarded the Distinguished West Virginian Award by then Governor, now Senator Jim Justice. As a lifelong West Virginian, what does that mean to have that recognition?
That is one of the most honorable and humbling awards I think I've ever received. And so I want to give that back to the people. It's the 1.8 million West Virginians that made the work worth it. And knowing that at the end of the day, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's an HIV outbreak, whether it's flood response, that they get the care that they need and the treatment they deserve, because they're wonderful people. And so it's very humbling. I want to thank the good governor for the award, our now Senator Justice. He's given us the tools and the opportunity to do great things. And so I want to thank him as well, because I couldn't have done it without the gifts and that we were given, and the resources we were given, and the leadership. The leadership that we had was amazing.
And I would say well-deserved recognition. So in 2018, you and your family were struck with a horrible tragedy. You lost everything in your house to fire. You ended up writing a book about it and talking about how so many people rallied to come help you and your family in time of need. So tell us a little bit about the experience writing the book, but also about how the power of community shaped you and your leadership.
That was quite an ordeal, and so nobody thinks that they're going to be in that type of situation. It is a nightmare scenario. Nobody wants to lose everything they had. Because of the upbringing that I had, because of West Virginia, because of the great people that I have surrounding me, I went from being homeless in 2018, literally being in my pajamas out in the middle of the night with my daughter and not knowing what else to do, to being a cabinet secretary, because I had the level of support and all of the things that have come together to give me that strength. I think that in itself gave me the strength to push through a little harder with COVID, knowing that things could always be worse, knowing that you will get through it, and knowing the resilience that you have that you didn't know you had. I even saw my 10-year-old daughter with levels of resilience that no child should have to endure. And while that was terrible, I know that is going to be something that continues with her for the rest of her life. It's humbling because I went to medical school to help people, and to be that person that in the middle of the night, drenching in the rain in my pajamas, but that's the only thing that I have, next to my daughter, you learn what's very important and what can't be replaced, and that's family and friends and the people that support you. But the rest of it, you can come back. You can come back from that, and while it's hard, you make do. You make do. So
your daughter, who went through this trying times with you together, is now about to head off to college.
Yes.
So, and you and I talked about this before we got started. You've got a daughter getting ready to go to college. I've got a son who went back to school, now going to medical school. And we actually have 11 months ago, we had our first grandchild. So I want you to talk about, from the perspective of your daughter, what do you see for the future of West Virginia, and what do you want to shape as a leader for the future of West Virginia going forward? Absolutely. So looking at her career and her trajectory, I know that she's got resilience because she is a West Virginia girl, just like your son and your children. You invest into them so that they will go off and do great things. And they don't always make the exact decision you probably would have made for them, but they find their way. I'm excited for her to go off and start her career. I want her to have the opportunity to stay in West Virginia and to want to be in West Virginia and have the opportunities to be in West Virginia. That's the investment we need to be making. And while it's been great to be at the forefront of a lot of changes,
we've got to think about our succession plans at some point. And as hard as it is to turn some of that over, we need to make sure that we have raised our strong leaders so that we can continue to support our state far after we've hung up our running shoes.
And I appreciate those comments, and I think that's a great way to close out this session in that, we've both had the experience of growing up and becoming leaders so that we could shape our own future.
Mm-hmm.
But now the focus is really on shaping other people's future and other people's success, particularly our children, but all the people of West Virginia. So your comments about shaping the success for the next generation of West Virginians, I think demonstrates really, truly the kind of leader that you are. And it's been a privilege to have somebody of your leadership caliber and capability on at the leadership table.
Thank you, and thank you for your leadership. You have led from the front, and your career, I've watched it, and just to be here having this conversation 5 years ago today, we were shut down. We didn't know what was going to happen. So Not only is it an honor and privilege to have worked with you, we made it to the other side, and so thank you for your help in that.
Thank you, Sherri. Thanks for listening. This has been At the Leadership Table with retired Major General Jim Hoyer. Did you know you can now find me on social media at RMG Hoyer? That's HOYER, or email me at rmgjameshoyer@gmail.com.